Welcome back! I'm continuing this series with yet another video about the Balkan countries. This time, I will talk about Yugoslavia, a state that was formed right after the First War and eventually fell apart due to internal division and foreign invasion. During the Great War, the Yugoslav Committee tried to convince the Entente that the unification of southern Slavs would be the solution to existing problems in the southern part of Austria-Hungary. In late 1918, after breaking through on the Macedonian front, Entente forces quickly advanced through Serbia and reached the old border, where the first shots had been fired back in 1914. In October, the state of Slovenes, Croats and Serbs was proclaimed, uniting Slovenia, Croatia and Bosnia-Herzegovina, but a month later, this unrecognized state joined the kingdoms of Serbia and Montenegro. Then a great assembly of all Slavs in Novi Sad announced that most of southern Hungary would also join. Since these territories were already under Serbian control, nobody was surprised. Despite tensions between the Croatian and Serbian delegates, they reached a compromise and the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes was formed, with Peter I as its king, although he was by then old and fragile, so most affairs were conducted by his son and regent, Alexander. The Paris Peace Conference approved these changes, but there were territorial disputes with most neighboring countries. Romania agreed to the division of southern Hungary, Carinthia voted to remain in Austria, while Bulgaria had to concede some land in Macedonia. Italy, which received Zadar and Istria according to the Paris negotiations, signed the Treaty of Rapallo in 1920 to modify the border in Slovenia, although a few years later, under Mussolini, they occupied Fiume or Rijeka. Almost immediately, two rival parties clashed, leading to the first political crisis. The People's Radical Party had traditionally been Serbia's main political force, but the Democratic Party, with many delegates from the former Austro-Hungarian territories, controlled many ministries. It wanted centralization and land reform, which the radicals opposed. Several governments collapsed before a compromise was reached. The radicals accepted centralization, while the Democrats dropped their plan of radical land reform. In 1920, a railway strike and worker unrest was followed by a peasant revolt in Croatia. Only an alliance of these two major parties could ensure normalization. The new state had 8 territories. Its first constitution was approved in June 1921 with simple majority, although the process itself revealed internal division. The king of the constitutional monarchy now had extensive powers. Separation of powers was not complete. Citizens had rights, but women could not vote, and there was also a high age bracket. King Peter I died in August. He was followed by Alexander. 2 subsequent elections in 1923 and 1925 were won by the Radical Party, but the Croatian Peasant Party remained the second largest force, followed by the Democrats. Soon after the implementation of the constitution, communists assassinated the Minister of the Interior, while the Croatian Peasant Party did not accept the document until 1925, when they were offered entry into the government by Prime Minister Nikola Pasic, a veteran politician with more than 3 decades of experience. Under Pasic, police pressure was used against minorities, the opposition and the voters, but this did not hurt the Croatians, who continued to win seats. Their leader, Stjepan Radic, was released from prison in 1925, while the Democrats were weakened. In the same year, the Treaty of Nettuno was signed with Italy. It allowed Italians to freely immigrate into the region of Dalmatia, but its looming ratification led to a serious parliamentary battle in 1928, in which even death threats were included. Then a Serb deputy shot 5 Croatian members. 2 of them died on the spot, while Radic died months later. The Croatian opposition withdrew from parliament, but in January 1929, King Alexander I abolished the constitution and introduced a personal dictatorship, changing the country's name to Yugoslavia. Old administrative districts were replaced with 9 Banovinas, opposition leaders were arrested, after which Croatian deputy Ante Pavelic left the country and established a revolutionary organization, the Ustaše, allying himself with the Bulgarian IMRO, which fought for the secession of Macedonia. In 1931, a new constitution with universal male suffrage but no secret ballots was decreed by Alexander I. Croatian opposition to the new government was strong. A year later, the Zagreb Manifesto was issued, seeking an end to what was seen as a Serb dictatorship. Many Croatian politicians were arrested, but by 1934, the king changed his mind. He tried to find common ground between Serbs and Croats. In October of that year, he was assassinated in Marseille by an IMRO activist who was working with the Ustaše and Yugoslav exiles. Since Alexander's son, Peter II, was too young, a regency council was formed, although it was dominated by Prince Paul, first cousin of the deceased king. Internal tensions continued. Both Serbs and Croats tried to expand their territory and influence by taking over other Banovinas. Montenegro united with Serbia, Croatia wanted Dalmatia, but both sides wanted parts of Bosnia-Herzegovina. In 1939, to find a solution to these problems, an autonomous Banovina of Croatia was established with its own parliament, which the local Serbian minority did not like, while the Ustaše desired full independence. Obviously, the country was ethnically diverse. 39% were Serbs, 24% were Croats, while Slovenes hovered at 8.5%, and Bosnian Muslims constituted 6% of the population, not to mention the various other minorities. The economy was more uniform. 75% of the workforce was engaged in agriculture. Rural overpopulation was also present. The southern regions were especially poor, while in the north, major foreign landowners, mainly Magyars, were removed. Their large estates were broken up. Roughly half of the population was illiterate. Only 10% of students attended higher education, but these numbers varied depending on the region. Machinery and modern techniques were lacking. The industry was underdeveloped and small, except for mining, just like in Bulgaria. Foreign debt caused a major problem. Once the Great Depression started, agricultural exports were no longer a stable source of revenue, at least not until a re-emerging Germany increased its orders. Yugoslavia was part of the Little Entente with Czechoslovakia and Romania, backed by France. The main goal was to prevent Hungary from retaking its lost territories, but in 1924, a Balkan bloc was also established with Greece, Turkey, and Romania to maintain balance on the peninsula. The assassination of Alexander I resulted in a shift in foreign policy, so this alliance lost its significance. Relations with Italy were bad from the start, as both countries wanted full control over the Dalmatian coast. Italy also formed a coalition with friendly countries, Hungary, Albania, and Bulgaria, in the late 20s, but Mussolini soon changed course due to British and French pressure, although he allowed the Ustaše to use training grounds in Italy. Alexander I signed a treaty of friendship with France in 1927, but French internal division and growing German influence in the region made it increasingly difficult to maintain close ties. Regent Prince Paul signed a similar treaty with Italy in 1937, partly to reduce the significance of the Ustaše movement, but a year later, Austria was annexed by Germany, and it became obvious that another war was approaching. In April 1939, Albania was taken by Italy, and with the defeat of France, only Britain remained on the scene as a potential ally. Not a great prospect for a Balkan country that feared the German and Italian invasion. Hitler wanted Yugoslavia to pick a side. The government joined the Tripartite Pact in March 1941, but Prince Paul was removed in a coup 2 days later. Full-scale invasion came next. I will talk about the 1941 Balkan campaign in my World War II series. Until then, see you in the next one.